Allison, what do you think? We give everyone maybe a couple minutes to join us?
I think so. Yeah, we'll chat with everyone, see who's joining us, and give everyone a second to come in because everybody's always running behind 2 or 3 minutes late on meetings. So let because like Diana said, I don't know if I've ever seen more great information packed into one webinar. So you don't want to miss a thing. So we'll give everyone 2 minutes. I think that's a good idea.
That's a great idea. Maybe you're coming off a meeting, you're grabbing a beverage. I've got my massive cup here of
We got
water.
our massive cups.
We both have massive cups. Yes, I love it.
You have to stay hydrated. It's speaking of, I know Diana, we were talking about you're out in Denver. I'm in Pennsylvania, so I know we wanted to start out with a bit of a icebreaker. Let's see where everybody's from. Let's make sure our chat is working. Where's everybody calling in from today? Throw it in
That
the
is
chat.
that is a great idea. And we should have the chat open. For any reason it's not, although I believe it is. You can
All
also
right.
use the Q&A box. In fact,
Yep.
throughout this webinar, if you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, whatever it might be, throw them in the Q&A box and we will address them. And it looks like the Q&A box is where it's at, Allison.
Nice.
All right. So, yep, chat's disabled. Thank you, Angela.
Q&A
So
work.
that's all right.
Yeah.
David's in Omaha. That has to be pretty cold right now, David. Robert is in Huntsville, Alabama. Sydney from Connecticut. Hi, Sydney.
I was going to say we
Welcome.
knew Sydney. Hi, Sydney.
Yes, hi. We've got Jersey, Cali, Detroit.
Oh, hang on a second. We have a skip back Pennsylvania, and I grew up in Harleysville, Pennsylvania, one town over. So I have a neighbor on the call today.
Oh,
Hi, Dean from Skip Back, my neighbor.
I love it. Josh is in Denver. Hey, Josh, I'm in Denver as well. Let's see. I took my morning walk this morning because I'm walking every morning at sunlight because I'm crazy. But oh my goodness, I'm shocked. It's 52 degrees in Denver right now.
Yeah, it's been chilly in Pennsylvania. We've been in below in single and below zero digits in the last few weeks, but it is warming up a little bit now. So I hope it looks
Good.
like we've got a lot of cold weather folks on the call today. But nah, we see some
Yes,
San Diego and stuff too. So
we do. We do. Hang in there, folks. It's almost going to be warm again, but who knows, depending on where you are. Windy City, it's my favorite city ever, except I can't go in the winter. It's just too cold. All right. I think this is great. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to clear out these answers in the Q&A box for the rest of the session. We'll use it for questions you have, comments, anything that you want to share, any experiences. We love hearing from you. In fact, you will find that this will be a very engaging learning session. I'm even hesitant to call it a webinar. It's clearly a webinar, but we're here to learn and we're here to engage with one another. So we'll have some polls throughout. We'd love to hear from you. And again, you'll find that there's a lot of great content in store. So what do you think, Allison? We go ahead and kick this off?
let's do it.
Okay. All right. Just clearing these out one by one. Folks, thank you again for making the time today. I always say this on the onset of a webinar. You're business owners. You're busy. We get it. And you could be doing a lot of things right now, but you're also invested in growth. And that is why you're here. So we promise to make this next hour well worth your time. And we're going to start by talking about what we're going to talk about. We are so excited because we think Asset Map and White Glove make an amazing combination for advisors. Whether you use us or not, you're going to be able to take away a ton from today's session with just ideas and inspiration. Again, whether you work with us or not, that's another goal for us. But we want to talk about how to supercharge your next financial event. There's so many different ways to do this. In combining with Asset Map, our goal is to talk about the power of visuals, right? But also to talk about how events can be powerful prospecting tools for you, right? Seminars, webinars, client events, even. There's always that end goal of engaging people, but also maybe growing your business in the process. And there's so many different ways you can do that. We're going to talk again today about a few of those different ways. I'll do a quick intro of myself. I know you're not here to learn about me, but then I'll pass it over to Allison so she can do her quick intro. So my name is Diana Cabrices. I'm the Chief Evangelist here at White Glove. My role is heavily centered around educating advisors on the power of prospecting events, whether it's a seminar in person or it's a webinar digitally. I've spent the last 7-8 years of my career in this space, working with advisors across a lot of different areas of their business: email marketing, branding, technology, M&A, recruiting. So I have a pretty well-rounded understanding of your needs as advisors, whether you're a small person shop or you're part of a huge enterprise. I've really worked across the board. So super excited to be here. Allison, I'll pass it over to you for your intro.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Diana, and inviting us to join you because we're super excited to talk about the power of White Glove and Asset Map together. I'm Allison Susko, Vice President of Community over at Asset Map. I joke around that I walked right out of college into financial technology. So I started at eMoney Advisor for almost 10 years. I headed over to DocuPace Technologies for a couple of years, and then I've been at Asset Map for almost 6 somehow. So time flies when you're having fun. I really get super passionate about events and seminars too, because back in my day at eMoney, and I have a fun story to share at some point during this webinar, I did a ton of client appreciation events, prospecting events, to really kind of show off that client website that was so revolutionary at the time at eMoney. So this is something that I just love talking about as it is, and working Asset Map into it is just an incredible opportunity. So thrilled to be here today.
And I always learn something new about Allison when we partner up together. When she told me that yesterday, yeah, I spent time at eMoney. We did events. Like, oh, it was just so perfect. So thank you, Allison, for making the time to partner with me on this webinar. So what exactly are we going to talk about? Again, I like to summarize that first. Just a couple bullet points and we're getting right in. First, how can you incorporate visuals and expand on complex financial topics, storytelling, all the good visuals at your next event? We've got some ideas for you. We'll take you through Asset Map. We're even going to show you the discovery. You can have your phone handy and scan the QR code so you can see what clients or prospective clients would go through with this really cool technology. We call them not yet clients because we want them to be clients, and they will be clients if we do it right. Proven strategies you can steal to drive attendance at your next event. Again, whether you use White Glove or not. And then what is the make or break for advisors when hosting prospecting events? When you're hosting a seminar or a webinar, where do advisors who flop with this, like where do they go wrong? And then what about the ones who don't, who are actually very successful? And we've got some spotlight stories to show with you as well. Okay, let's move in, Allison. Let's talk about the power of visuals. Nobody knows this better than you do. What do you have to say about this?
Wow. So I think we all know this. And if you know that the history of Asset Map, our CEO and founder, Adam Holt, really found that, just the genesis of Asset Map was we have all these great tools at our disposal, but people really relate to things visually. They understand it. They don't get kind of paralyzed making decisions because things are too complex on a really kind of built out report or chart or graph. Just break it down in the most, easy to understand way as possible. And with humans and with all of us, that's visuals almost always. So really, that was the genesis of why Asset Map came about, was to take that great data and visualize it with the clients so that they could stay engaged in the conversation. So really, I think, is this where we're starting off with our poll, Diana?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we've got 60% of people are visual learners. We got a poll coming up. So Diana, what's our poll?
All right, let's launch this poll. And we want to know how many of you use visuals during prospect meetings. And actually, this should really be during prospect and client meetings. It's just as important with your prospects as it is with your clients. But of course, this whole webinar is geared towards growth. We want to know, what are the strategies and things you can incorporate to grow your business? So I'm going to give you guys maybe 10 more seconds or so to ask the question or answer the poll. And we've got some chatter going on, Q&A. Awesome. We love hearing from you guys. Okay, so
chat with us.
Please do. The numbers are evening out. So I think I'll go ahead and end this poll. And I'm going to share this back with you. And cool. It makes me really happy.
That
85% of you are using visuals. That is amazing. That is a huge improvement, I would say. And obviously a visual can be defined by so many different things, right? You could have a simple graph. You could have a really complex visual like an asset map that goes really, really far. We're going to talk about some of that today too. But again, 85% of you are using visuals. For the 15 that are not, you're in a really great spot right now. You're going to learn some really cool things that how Asset Map can help you use visuals.
That's pretty cool. That's a great poll result. I'm excited to see that.
All right, let's move on to this next slide. So Allison, Let's talk about this.
Let's talk about this. So we've done some research. We wanted to provide you guys with some really good stats on the call today too. So people are taking information in, and it's transmitted to the brain visually. It looks like the human brain can process an image in 13 milliseconds. I don't even know how to understand what 13 milliseconds is, but that is just insane fast. I mean, that's crazy. But when it comes to hearing something, and I always enjoyed being in classes where professors were kind of orating and telling me something, but I always felt like I had to back it up either by taking a note, by looking at a textbook and actually kind of referring it back to something, because it's just hard to retain every single thing we hear. But obviously the visuals and comparing it back and allowing it to be something we're hearing along with pairing it with a visual, look at that jump up in percentage to 65% from 10. What are your thoughts on that, Diana?
I love this because I personally am a visual learner. In fact, I look back to just school years going to university, and where I really thrived and did well, it's because I had professors that took these complex topics and broke them down into these maps, into these visuals, into flowcharts. I'm a huge fan of that. And I think that with the topic of financial advice, there is a lot going on, right? You think about any given topic out there, even with financial planning, but IRMA, college planning, 401k rollovers, just knowing, like, if for business owners, for example, if you work with business owners, right, their situation changes radically from being a W-2 employee. Now they're having to think about business taxes, and after business, once they withdraw money and they pay themselves, what other accounts they should be allocating there. Flowcharts are perfect for all of this. And we know there's a lot of asset transfer happening right now over the next 30 years or so. And people are going to need help in these areas. So I think it makes a lot of sense to me. And I think it tells advisors it's not enough to just write a long email. It's not enough to just talk to your clients on a meeting. You need to also supplement that to meet people's learning needs where they are, which essentially, as we said, 60% of people need those visuals. And here you can see it's also going to help them retain your advice better. You don't want to just give advice. You want people to actually implement it. And yes, you're implementing some of this advice for them as their advisor, but it takes going deeper. So I think this is really cool. In fact, a lot of this was inspired by this Wealth Tender article. If you want to look it up, we included the image here that you can see on the left: financial advisors who simplify complex topics with visuals.
Very, very true. And, the other thing I would say is, I think we as an industry went so complex on a lot of different topics because advisors want to be sure that they can do the best calculations. They can support any single type of client, whether it be the most advanced, complex household in their book of business to compared to maybe a couple just getting started in their careers. Visuals span everyone, not just, folks that have a more simple plan. And everybody wants to understand their finances. And even the most sophisticated high net worth clients can shut down at something that is just a little bit over their heads when it comes to their finances, because it's so important to all of us that, we have to really make sure, like you said, we're meeting them where they need to be spoken to, and so that they can stay engaged.
Totally. And someone said in the chat, it was really good. It says, people believe more what they see versus what they hear. And that's also why, if Allison and I were just here today, just talking to you without any of these slides, without any of these visuals, number one, how engaged do you think you would be? How much do you think you would retain? And how much do you think you'd even believe us? Probably not much, right? So it even, like, right now live on this session, we are showcasing exactly this power and exactly what we're saying here. So thank you for sharing that. So quick summary.
I'm going to feel that. That's really good.
Right? I love it.
For
quick
sure.
summary here.
Yeah. So again, visuals help people make better decisions and help them understand their complex situation more simply. At the end of the day, people who are confused cannot make decisions, right? So that's when you start to shut down. I don't know how to answer that question. Sure, I can get you my statements, but I just am not following. So as soon as it becomes too complex to follow, the decision making goes downhill. And again, that's something else that Adam, our CEO, really kind of latched onto when he created Asset Map was he started finding almost immediately that, wow, these folks are looking at their financial life on a page, and now they get it, and they're able to talk more freely about what's really important to them because it really is just resonating. So that has just been proven over and over again. And we all love a story, right? So Diana and I talk about how important storytelling is all the time, whether it be in, our lives as kind of the behind the scenes tech folks, or for you as advisors. Everybody wants to be able to relate to something. And if you can relate to, what are folks like yourself doing? Asset Map has something we call stencils in the system, which basically says, here are what your peers are doing. Here are some things that folks in your age category are doing as far as decisions around their finances. So everybody likes to be able to relate, and visuals. How can you think of a better way than relating through anything visualization? And advisors can develop really long-lasting relationships using things that are visual, and also getting the whole family involved. We talk about that so much, making sure you're not just talking to your client, but you're getting to know that spouse too. And also, folks who could be potentially down the line beneficiaries, and kind of ending up with working on the finances with that family or with that client and spouse. So in involving everybody who important matters to that family, and using the visuals to support that, to say, hey, once this flows to, this person, here's what it's going to look like. That's all super, super important as well.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. We've got someone in the chat, Julie Johnson. Hello, Julie. She
Hi,
says,
Julie.
when you are creating visuals, use everyday language, avoid jargon. I think this is really important too. Obviously, specific accounts have specific terminology that you have to use to describe them. But as you connect the dots for people, using that language is important. That's why I actually have the word relate bolded on this slide. I'm actually getting ready to give a keynote presentation in a couple of months to a group of advisors in Virginia. And my whole presentation is on the relatability factor, because it is so important that people can relate to you as a person. And using everyday language is absolutely a step in there. Telling stories, not just about yourself as an advisor, but also about who you've worked with and how far they've come, and their transformation is also powerful. And I'll leave you with something I share often as well is, and this is according to data online. I think I presented this to Mariner couple of years ago. So maybe it's changed a little bit, but 63% of people remember stories. Only 5% of people remember stats. I'm going to say that one more time. 63% of people remember stories. 5% of people remember stats. Wow. In financial services, we spew a lot of numbers, a lot of data, a lot of stats, and that's okay. It's the nature of our work. But if we don't wrap that into a story, people aren't going to retain it. They're not going to relate with you. And that is just so profound. So thank you, Allison, for sharing some of these insights. Let's get into the tech. Let's talk about how they can use Asset Map in an event. Now, folks, when we say event and when we marketed this whole thing, we were clear. This could be a virtual event. This could be an in-person event. In fact, I want to hear from you at the end of this webinar if you're planning on hosting any events this year. But whether it's a seminar, whether it's a webinar, you can still use visuals, and you can use storytelling, and you can use this cool Asset Map technology at your event. So let's go ahead and start, and let's talk about this discovery.
Yeah, so it's funny, right when I was starting at Asset Map, like I said, about 6 years ago, 2018, we were coming out with this product called Discovery, and that's what you're going to see in the next few minutes. And Discovery is, in my opinion, one of the most important pieces of the Asset Map software. We talk a lot about how important it is to collaborate with your clients once they become clients, with the visualization, with the Asset Map report that you've kind of all seen, that has everything laid out so nicely right in front of us here on the screen. However, the ability to properly prospect and find out about folks that you're going to be meeting with in the future before they come into the meeting is second to none. So, when Laura and I started talking, over a year ago now, about how cool it would be to collaborate between White Glove and Asset Map, getting to these events, like Diana said, whether they be virtual, in person, these seminars, and taking it to the next level to say, well, great, I've had this wonderful event. I feel like it went so well. We had 25 or so families there that we want to potentially meet with and work with in the future. Now what? How do I get to the next stage with getting all the important information about them? What are they really looking to do? What is their goal? And how can we support each other? And is this the best fit when it comes to a relationship? Getting to that place of credibility and trust super fast with a prospect is helping them convert to clients. We all know that. And I almost think that there's nothing better out there than the Asset Map Discovery tool to do that. So if you were to take your phone, like Diana said, we have a QR code over on the left. So you could actually take a picture of where it says start building your asset map today and see for yourself, maybe after this webinar is over, what the client would go through or what the prospect would go through post a seminar with White Glove. And it'll walk you through how simple it is and how client friendly it is. And I'm going to show you here in a couple minutes. But what that will do is it will gather from them, from their perspective, what's important, what they have at a high level, giving you insight about what they've got going on before that meeting even happens. It is invaluable information. So I hear it all the time. I'm lucky to chat with a lot of advisors on a weekly basis. And the discovery tool, if you're prospecting, is hands down the best thing out there. So Diana, if we want to pop over, I'm going to show you all what it looks like to go through it. Super simple as a prospect.
Yes. And before I do, I just want to say, where could this fit into an event? We like to say at White Glove, obviously your event needs to have a strong call to action. But I also like to say you could have multiple calls to action. Here's why. Yes, you should always give people a way to book a meeting with you. We talk about this a lot. We introduce the concept of the sticky note method and how successful that works for our advisors hosting events. But also think about people who may not be ready to take that next meeting step with you. And what else do they have as an option? Maybe some reading, some resources that they can sort of marinate on their own time. This is the perfect type of resource for that. It's sort of a special offer, secondary call to action, right? The marketing funnel is a marketing funnel, and hosting an event with White Glove, we help fill the top. We sort of widen that funnel at the top. So there's a lot of good distribution, but you are sort of narrowing them down over time at the event, post-event. So have this in your seminar presentation or your webinar presentation with this QR code. Also include a link into your follow-up emails from the event. We're going to talk about some of our strategy there at White Glove, but absolutely, those are two different ways you can use this link, this QR code. So Allison, I'll go to the next slide and I'll let you walk through this.
Yeah, so I like to say at this point, let's put our client hats on, or in this case, our prospect hat. So this is the experience that those folks would go through if you decide to send the link out to them and say, hey, tell me a little bit more about you and Evelyn before you come into the meeting, because I would love to make our first meeting super productive so we're off and running. And again, make sure that this is a great fit for us. So you go ahead and hit start now. And this is, again, our client or prospect filling this out. So it looks like we have Gabriel Lincoln. Gabriel is 45 years old, and you can put as little or as much information in this as the client or prospect feels comfortable with. So it looks like Gabriel has a spouse, Evelyn Lincoln. We've got female, we've got 44 years old, and save. Super simple, almost like a TurboTax experience, really easy. And it does look like they have a child that they would like to add. So we have Monroe Lincoln, and I think Monroe is female and 9 years old. So this is just, again, giving us information about these folks that are going to come in and potentially become our client. So all we have to do is hit continue at this point. If they have business interests, if they have additional children, they can add whoever matters to them financially. And we're going to give them some prompts along the way and say, hey, well done. Now we know all about your family situation. Let's talk about our finances. So in this case, the prospect or the folks that attended the seminar are able to check off whatever makes sense to them. So in this case, we have some income. It looks like they own a home. Potentially they have a mortgage attached to that house, a couple insurance policies, an investment or two. Again, whatever they feel comfortable with and whatever is, kind of relevant to them. And at that point, they can jump into each one of those that they said was relevant to them and give us a little information. And what this is doing is behind the scenes, it's creating that asset map report for you. So it's even doing some of the data entry behind the scenes for you, which is great. So it looks like Gabriel is a service director and makes about $130,000 a year. Save, done, super easy. We're going to add another income. It looks like in this case for Evelyn, and Evelyn is also employed, and she is a warranty administrator and makes about $75,000 a year. So again, this is building that asset map for us, doing all the hard work with the client, just really going through this super friendly fact finder. We can click done. If we have some kind of supplemental income that can be added, whatever they're comfortable with. And they can jump around. So they can go down to loans and liabilities. They can jump into real estate in this case and say, well, we've got a jointly owned home that's in Pennsylvania, and give it a general amount of how much the house is worth. In this case, the client says 400,000. Can click done. We can add more properties. As you can see, this could not be any more simple. Get a loan logged in there, and this is again almost a fun experience for them. You can imagine they're sitting there, maybe even watching TV on a Friday night, and just filling this out, leading up to their meeting that maybe they have next week, and done. If they were to even skip investments, right? Let's pretend they say, no, maybe I don't want to tell them that yet. It's even going to put a placeholder on the asset map, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. But in this case, they're going to tell us about Evelyn's 401k, where it's located, and how much it's worth. We're not looking to get into, super high level detail. We're not looking to get super deep. We just want to know what's important to this family and what they have going on. And again, this is giving you so much insight to find out about this prospect before they come into the office. Looks like we have Gabe with a life insurance policy. They can choose a carrier, and then just maybe a death benefit amount. And even if these are guesses, it's okay, because you're able to, once you get to that meeting and once they decide to work with you, you can get down to the details with them then. This is really just to give you an idea of what they've got going on. So we're going to tell them again, great job, nice work. Keep in mind, this can also be white labeled and set up to match up with your branding. So keep that in mind as well. Diana, as a marketer, will love that. And
I'm smiling about it.
We'll ask them, what else is on your mind? This is super cool. So what's important to you that might not be already on your kind of financial inventory? So they said, saving for retirement, things like that. And maybe my favorite piece is anything else on your mind, a free-form place for this person to say, you know what, it was so awesome meeting you at the seminar. I'm also kind of interested in talking a little bit about estate planning. Is that something that we could, delve into at our next meeting? Really, really cool stuff. And done. We send them confetti because we like to keep things fun here at Asset Map, and that's it. So that took about 4 minutes, and in 4 minutes, now the advisor can jump up. We're going to put our advisor hats on. We're going to go up to the notifications, and I already got one saying Gabe and Evelyn filled out their fact finder, and I can jump right into there and say, wow, I'm super excited to meet with them next week. Let me see what they've got going on so I can plan out our conversation and make it super valuable. Now, I'm mousing over a link there in the middle. You can do all kinds of things with Discovery. You can send something directly to Diana and her boyfriend to find about them specifically, or you'll see in a second, you have your very own QR code, your very own link that you could put in your email address. If you're doing a ton of prospecting, that's your method, man. It's going to just take care of it for you, and it's certainly specified to you. And if I jump in, now I can see this is the asset map that was built out. Again, it's not fully baked at by any means. But when do you get this kind of information leading up to a meeting typically? It's really hard to do. Again, it did some of the work for you in the asset map report. And then at that point, you can start thinking about, how do I really want to take this to the next level? Client becomes a client from a prospect, and there are so many ways to get a fully baked out asset map. Go ahead and, if you wouldn't mind getting over to the next screen, Diana, and this will give you an idea. So here's kind of a bits and pieces of an asset map. And then,
I did something wrong there. Sorry, guys.
Right. Don't even worry about it. Yep.
There we go.
So, this one's a little more built out. And, there are lots of ways post-discovery, what we just did with the client, to really turn it into a fully baked out asset map. We have amazing integrations with partners like Redtail, Orion, Nitrogen, Morningstar, you name it. We've got about 13 to 15 different integrations that are going to help you round it out. And then the old-fashioned way, coming in with a client and meeting with them, whether it be, like Diana said, meetings can be super effective, whether they're remote or in person. Same goes for Asset Map. A seminar can be great in either way, and so can your client meetings. And we try to keep the experience the same, whether you're meeting with someone over a Zoom like we are today, or if they're in the office. And Asset Map is great at that as well. But that kind of old-fashioned interaction, that interview process between you and the client or prospect, is really how a lot of data gets entered into Asset Map. because they feel like they're part of the project, and it's really, really special, and it builds the relationship. So, it's a great way to get started with that questionnaire. And you can see it was not difficult. Any client or prospect would have some fun and would enjoy letting you know what they've got going on before that meeting.
Also just a good exercise for them, right? To like mentally map this out and then be able to, come to this with the advisor. I think it's super powerful. We had a couple of really good questions, and thank you, Allison, for walking through. That was fantastic. And it just goes to show how powerful your platform is. But Braulio, and I hope I said your name right, asked, do you recommend to show the QR code at the beginning or the end of your presentation?
Wow.
My thoughts on that, and I'd love to hear yours,
Please,
Allison.
no, you go first. That's a great question.
Is it really should be at the end. However, because you want people to stay engaged, right? Telling them to whip out their phone and take a quiz while you're presenting other information might, mean that you'll lose some of that engagement. But what you can do is you can have a sample asset map, just like this one, that you showcase during your presentation.
I love that. Yeah. I would totally agree with everything you said. And certainly when you're a subscriber of Asset Map, we arm you with samples. So you don't have to worry about creating your own or worrying about real client data being anywhere nearby. So we make sure that you have samples if needed. And that way you could do exactly what Diana said. But that's a great suggestion. And yeah, I would agree. I mean, I have a couple other cool stories on how to use the link and the QR codes, but I would definitely say at the end of the meeting, and you're going to be able to see whoever kind of interacts with that link, which is really great lead gen for you as well.
Totally. And not to mention that, is there anything else that you want to let us know? That open text box, if they've just come to your presentation, your seminar, your webinar, and they've listened to all the content that you shared, guarantee they've got questions. They've got things they want to share. They know a little bit more about you. You sort of warm up that prospect. That's just the beauty of doing events, is getting face to face, whether it's virtual or in person, sharing that energy with them and opening that relationship and that trust, really that start of trust. So, hey, somebody also asked, is Asset Map Canadian friendly?
Asset Map is Canadian friendly. So we love our friends north of the border in United States. We've actually done some minor localization changes, such as, I know you all, and I'm going to butcher this, I'm going to try not to, but when we call something a 401k, you call it a retirement savings account, I think, or an RSA or an RSP. So there are a couple of different changes that we've made in our platform to make it more, to resonate better with Canadian advisors and clients. And yes, we are absolutely Canadian friendly, and more than happy to talk to you about how that would work, and even have a couple of really cool Canadian case studies that we could share. So thank you for the great question.
Looks like Sebastian is pretty interested. Braulio asks one other question. When they input the data, do they have to choose a state? And if so, is Puerto Rico available?
Again, we're Puerto Rico friendly as well. So because we don't get super deep into kind of taxation and a lot of the kind of state or United, even country level laws and kind of tax calculations, you're able to really use it. We have folks using Asset Map in South Africa, in England, certainly in Puerto Rico, the Bahamas. So it is a jurisdiction friendly system. So we're happy to say that.
Good. Last question, and we're going to move along. Does the platform allow prospects to upload account statements in addition to just sharing numbers?
So we do have really cool integrations with Box, Dropbox, systems like that, where if you did want to kind of connect over to a document storage kind of option, you can do that. And we can walk you through it. There's no need to upload statements, but we do have, capabilities where they could be tied together.
Beautiful. Okay, let's move forward. I think just to wrap this up, this is such a powerful slide. If you're sitting here thinking, well, this seems really cool, but what is the efficacy of it? Allison, I'll let you talk through this.
When we added this in, I get verklempt every time, because 12 minutes on average to complete it for someone who's never seen the technology before, and giving you such amazing insight into, again, leading up to that meeting that you might have with that person from the seminar is crazy exciting. So they can fill out as little or as much as they feel comfortable with in that discovery fact finder. And that's important too, because we don't want to make any assumptions that they want to tell you certain things. Not yet. So that's a wonderful thing as well, but really quick to do, super user friendly. And that 48%, I want to talk about this for a second. So 48% of folks who open that discovery link, and that's not the ones that I sent directly to Diana and her spouse. That's the one that's more open-ended. It's been sent out to a group, plan participants, seminar attendees, folks who barely know you. We're getting almost half back. So, and I would argue, if you're at a seminar where you've invited someone personally and you send it out, it's probably going to be closer to 75%. They already know who you are. They're interacting with you. They're seeing these other great people at the seminar who they can relate to. I can't even imagine. I'm thinking if you have a seminar of 25 households, you're going to get at least 15 to 20 back. I'd be surprised if it was anything less than 20. And we've been looking at this for a while. So pretty exciting and just a cool number, 36 billion. There's something else my brain can't wrap around. Household finances collected using Discovery in the last 6 or 7 years. So filling out that asset map report directly from the client and prospect's mouth, 36 billion. So pretty cool number, just to give context.
Super powerful. Let's tell some of our own asset map stories. I know you've got a couple here. And then once she finishes this up, folks, we're going to dive right into some event strategies, how you can fill the seats, what are the best places to host your events, all the good, juicy stuff around seminars, around webinars. So Allison, let's talk about this.
Yeah, just a couple minutes. So we have a couple folks who are really using the Discovery tool in a pretty cool way. So Malcolm has been a subscriber now for a while. He's a great guy. And he's worked Asset Map Discovery into his process so deeply that he actually has the link fully baked out into his Calendly. So when he sets up those meetings for the first time with a prospect, and he's doing a lot of prospecting, that certainly is something that he basically demands. So he wants that interaction with his, upcoming clients, his prospects. And he says, hey, tell me a little bit more about yourself. It's going to make that meeting so valuable for us when we first get together. And to the point where he almost will say, hey, listen, if you're not willing to do a bit of homework with me to really find out if we're a good fit, then maybe I'm not the right guy for you. I mean, he's really worked it in and he's getting amazing engagement because his clients are taking this step. And it's pretty powerful stuff. And you can find any of these case studies on our website if you want to read more. But if we pop into the next one, just in the interest of time, we also have Eric Negron, who's a wonderful advisor out of Austin, Texas. Diana, I think you just met him.
Yeah. He's a genius. My goodness. Yeah.
The best. He also, I interviewed both of these gentlemen for their case studies, and he has actually jumped up his conversion rate from prospects to clients 40% since he started, adding in the discovery process, that, really easy fact finder that I just walked you through, to go ahead and start working with him and his firm. And his firm is growing by the day. I mean, he is really crushing it out there. And I'll tell you what, 40% jump in conversion rates, basically out of nowhere is pretty cool.
That's huge. I think most advisors would agree. Like, the struggle of filling your pipeline, of building that distribution, and then getting people to convert. There's a timeline for that. This is a timeline shortener. One question, I think this might tie into maybe one more story, and then I promise we're going to get to the event stuff. Niambi, and that's a beautiful name. I also hope I said it correctly. If a potential client is not tech savvy, do you suggest filling the asset map out for them with them present?
That is absolutely possible. And it's it's like we planned these questions, but we didn't. So in addition to the ability to send that link out, and that's a great question, you can also say, hey, let's do it together. And you can either do it together on the advisor side, or you could do it together and say, set up a discovery and launch now. It's a launch now feature to actually have them do it, but you're there to walk them through it. So the options are endless. But yeah, whenever I launch a discovery for like a presentation to show you all, I just hit a launch now, and it's giving me the client experience as the advisor. But if they were in the office with them, I could, turn my computer around and say, hey, do it yourself, but I'm here to support you if you need it. So that's a great question.
Yep. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you, Allison. This has been so impactful. Love the stories. Love to see the growth. I'm also a numbers person. I know most financial advisors are, so I think they can really appreciate that. We've talked a little bit about using visuals, the power, the why behind them, being relatable, building trust. where in the presentation, whether it's virtual or in person, you can kind of incorporate that asset map discovery. And we're also going to talk now about like, what are some of the strategies we use at White Glove for our hosts? That's our advisors, our hosts, that are really working well. How do you fill the seats when you're there? Like, what are some of the tactics that you should deploy? And even post webinar, what are things to think about? I also want to kind of zoom out, White Glove aside, what is working for advisors with events? Why do so many advisors flop with events? Like, what is that defining factor for them? We're getting a few more questions in the chat. What we're going to do, folks, for the most part here is we're going to save our questions for the end of the webinar. We've got a dedicated Q&A. So thank you so much for being so engaged. This is amazing. All right, so let's talk about the White Glove workshop system. And I share this with you because if you want to host an event on your own, potentially, this is a really good framework. Or if you want to talk to White Glove, you kind of know going in how we work. So it's a 10-step system. It starts with the actual workshop, right? We need to make sure we're choosing a topic that's important to your target audience. You might even have a niche target that you're targeting. Maybe you want to get really specific there. But in general, we've got some topics up our sleeves that we know work really well. I'm going to share those with you. Your seminar presentation, your webinar presentation has to have a call to action. Just like in this presentation today, at the very end, we're going to share our call to action with you on where you can take that next step. I also say maybe multiple calls to action, because remember that funnel, we're sort of qualifying people down. Some people want to hang out up at the top. Some people are ready to go right through the bottom of that funnel. And we want to give both of those audiences a way to take a next step without halting them in their process. A special offer, a checklist, a book, a summary. Maybe you've written a book. Awesome. Asset map, the QR code, the discovery. Create your own free asset map visual. Super duper powerful. Show them that sample in the event. Booked meeting. So we have this thing called the sticky note method that's worked really, really well. In fact, I see professionals in our space, since I posted about it, now using it and telling me how awesome it worked for them. This comes from one of our White Glove founders and one of our top performing hosts. And what we do is, instead of necessarily just relying on a digital strategy for people to book a meeting with you at the event, we actually set up a board in the back of the room with sticky notes, and we tell them, hey, there's a lot of you in this room today. It's hard to sort of coordinate across everyone's calendars. So what we've done is we've made it easy on you. We've set up a board in the back of the room with sticky notes where we've dedicated days and times on our calendars to have a follow-up meeting with you. Go grab your sticky note, share it with the girl at the door or whoever's at the door. They'll mark it down. We'll send you that digital invite. What happens there, folks, is as one person stands up to go grab that sticky note, so do all the other people. We call this social proof. They get excited. They're like, ooh, I need to go grab my appointment slot before somebody else gets it. Reminders and fit calls. This happens after the seminar. You've got to start following up with people. Again, you can include that discovery link for Asset Map. You have that one-on-one meeting, get to sort of qualify them a bit more, use the asset map discovery that they've already filled out, or fill it out with them if they haven't yet, as that guide to talk. And then hopefully you get a new client. And now you keep that new client engaged and you collect reviews from them, and you sort of build that referable relationship, as I like to say, because they loved working with you from day one. They've been inspired by you. You've educated them. You've used visuals. And now they want to send their friends and family to you to help them as well. This is the workshop system. I talked about some of our topics that we cover, and I want to share here 3 of the topics that we like to run seminars on or webinars at White Glove. We do both for advisors. We started with Social Security. That's the 567, right? There's 567 ways to file Social Security. We kept that brand and we sort of pivoted into, or sort of grown that brand into, taxes and retirement, and then estate planning 567. Now, we're going to talk about credibility here in just a moment and how we actually set these up for our advisors. But topics are very important. Again, you might have other topics in mind. You want to host content over, you want to host that event over, totally okay. But there are a few ingredients that make for successful events. And I know, Allison, you have experience with events at eMoney. Definitely want to hear from you on this too. But it really starts with researching your market. It all depends on where you are, who you're targeting. Those topics also matter. The venue, and I don't know why my Zoom does this with balloons, but the venue also really matters. So maybe thinking about places that really foster curiosity and engagement. Your office might not necessarily be the best place for that because they just think it's another sales tactic. If you want to market to a targeted high net worth audience, you got to think about all the digital marketing channels. We use multiple channels to market at White Glove to create that audience for you, to sort of put the butts in the seats, as I like to say. We handle the registration. So if you're doing this on your own, you've got to think about this. I've got to call people, make sure they're going to show up. That's definitely behoove you to do that the day before the event, if not sooner, to make sure you remind them that they've registered for this. And then you have to actually show up and give the presentation. Honestly, this is where the real magic happens. No blog post, no social media graphic, guys, can replace the power of getting in person with people, even as I'm doing right now on this webinar. If my camera was off, you wouldn't really feel the same amount of energy. My camera's on, I'm looking at you, I'm talking to you. You can see my hand movement. This is where the real magic happens. Allison, anything that you would add here?
Oh my gosh, I love all of that. I think being thoughtful about your venue, thinking about the clients that you're attracting, what's great in your town that would be just the perfect fit, because it's different everywhere, right? So considering all of those things, and I bet you if you're not the person in the office that's the expert on this, someone on your staff is, and involving your team, the experts on your team is just something else I would add here.
Yeah, team is really, really important, actually. And that's a great segment to this slide. It's really the same thing when it comes to a webinar, right? Versus in person, except you got a couple additions. You need to make sure you know how to run the tech, right? If you're using Zoom, please understand how Zoom works. Don't start that webinar that day, and then for some reason you can't figure out why people can't ask questions, or, oh, I forgot to load the polls. Like, you need to practice that. And team, especially younger people on your team can absolutely help you. We sort of grew up on the computer. We know this stuff pretty well. Also create live engagement like polls. So we launched one at the beginning of the webinar. We're going to launch one at the end. We could have even launched one midway. We just want to be respectful of all your time because we knew we had so much good content to share with you. So I'll keep this slide up here for just a second. We're going to move along because you're going to get a copy of these slides if you're here with us today. This is just a quick, guide, if you will, on what we're seeing at White Glove as being some of the best venues. We've hosted over 40,000 advisor workshops over the years, so we know a thing or two. We've already done the trial and error for you, but libraries and community centers work really well for events. Hotels, business centers, not as much. And again, like doing this at your office, also perhaps not the best space. You can see the fulfillment rate. What does that really mean, folks? It's how many people you invited versus how many people actually showed up to that event. After your event, the event isn't just successful because of what you've done before or the great presentation you gave during. After the event matters really, really a lot. In fact, this is also why I say in your follow-up email, you can include that asset map link, the QR code, however you want to do that. But you should be thanking everyone personally for coming to your event and have some sort of cadence. Maybe it's a series of email that kind of drips out over the next 45 days. At White Glove, we have what we call a conversion campaign. We run it for you. We call, we text, we email. We want people to know we're very serious about their time, and we want to thank them for coming and nudge them forward to take that action with you. Now, one thing I'll say here is people are going to do their research with you, or I should say on you. So when you've hosted an event and someone has met you and they leave that event, there's going to be a lot percolating in their mind. One of the things they're going to definitely do is they're going to Google you. They're going to find your website. They want to learn more about you. If you're on social media presently with great content, if you've got online reviews, which I'm a huge advocate for and I talk a lot about, that's immediately going to speed up that decision process for them to say, gosh, I love the presentation. I love what I've learned. And now I can see what other people are saying. I can see this person's really active with financial advice. They're the right advisor for me. That's what we want to get. On the reputation aspect, I will share one of our secrets at White Glove is we actually do not promote the event for you under your brand. We have built these 3 brands that I mentioned before: taxes and retirement, estate planning, and Social Security. And if you go online and you look us up, you'll find, like, for example, taxes and retirement has over 2,600 reviews by people who have attended these seminars. These are all being done by all the advisors we work with across the country, across the nation. And we've got a 4.9 star review on average, 41,000 followers, 39,000 likes. We actually don't pull you into the picture until the day of the event. Why is this? You might think this is a little strange, but the reality is, and Allison, I want to hear from you on this because I know you know this too. The trust barometer is unfortunately pretty low for financial advisors. I want to say they rank, somewhere close to car salesmen, which is truly a pity. And yeah, there's some bad advisors out there. There's some amazing advisors out there, but we don't want people to think it's another sales pitch. That's why we do this.
Yeah, I mean, I also saw one recently, I think at T3 last week, someone said like compared to like realtors, and I was like, oh, do realtors anyway, so yeah. There's good and bad in every industry, right? And we all know that. But I think you make amazing points, Diana. I mean, you can find out about anybody these days online. So being cognizant about what your reviews look like.
I built my business on Social Security seminars.
I don't know who's that. Sorry about that.
It's your video. It's just we're just like giving a preview. But being sure that your social presence, I think that's a great piece of advice too, is exactly what you want it to be in it. And it's reflecting, your values and what you do as an advisor. So really, really great tips there, Diana.
Awesome. Thank you. And I appreciate that coming from you, like having so much experience in the event space too. This data just shows, again, you're going to get a copy of this, how since COVID, numbers are going up and up and up. When it comes to events, we're getting a lot of fulfillment. We're actually surpassing our fulfillment. So if we say we're going to get 16 households, that's HH on the left, ordered for this event. Well, now on average for a seminar, we're getting over 108% of that number. So a little over 16%, or for a webinar, 121% over what we've ordered or sort of planned for with the event that we're hosting for you. We do all of the marketing, etc. You can also see the appointment requests. So I'm going to go back to something Allison said before. These numbers that you're seeing. So in 2023, our average was about 47% of people who registered for the event while they were registering, marked a box that said, I would like to talk with this advisor, with the speaker after the event. That is a lot of people. That goes to show if they're registering for your event, they are really serious. They have a clear need. They want to talk with you. This next slide, give me 2 minutes because this is a powerful story from Kurt Stahl, who built his business on seminars. No, seminars are not just for experienced advisors. You can literally start your business and grow it using seminars. Yes, it is an investment, but one that will pay off. So I'm going to play this clip.
I built my business on Social Security seminars with White Glove. I started my firm in 2017 on the back of a giant 2 years of experience working as a sub-advisor for someone else. And then I built my entire business on Social Security seminars. However, at the last Host University that I attended, Dean really talked a lot about the success people were having with estate planning seminars. And, I just could not visualize, how do I do that? I'm going to have to talk about all these different types of trusts. And there's all this knowledge that I don't have that I'm going to need to use in those seminars. And then I'm going to be selling a service, wills and trusts, that are not a part of my business. But after listening to him at Host University, I realized that it could be different from that. And I signed up to do an estate planning event, my first one. And I literally was so completely busy for weeks up to it that the day before I was supposed to do it, at 8 a.m, I had a call with Dean because I had no presentation and no idea what I was going to say. And Dean spent about an hour or 45 minutes with me talking through how these other advisors are doing estate planning, and that you're really not talking about the documents. What you're talking about is the strategies. And the strategies are something that I do all day long. Primarily, they're tax planning strategies to lower the volatility in your holdings, strategies to get the best outcomes from your assets in retirement. So once I understood that I didn't have to know all the ins and outs of all the different kinds of trusts, And once I spent an hour or a little less than an hour with Dean talking about how to put this together, I put together a PowerPoint that day. And the next day I presented it, and we had extraordinary outcomes on that. We signed up a lot of first-time visitors, and since that event in January, we've literally brought in over $74,000 of immediate revenues, and that's things like fixed index annuities or fixed annuities or commission-based products. And then we brought in enough new assets under management to generate over $14,000 a year going forward.
I love that. And I had to show it to you. Thank you all for hanging in there. There's a quick recap of Kurt's experience on this next slide. So the ROI for his immediate commissions was 8-1. Folks, usually you say 4-1 is a good one, 8-1 here. And the ROI for lifetime value is 15-1. So as you heard, he started really his business on seminars. Who is Dean? Dean is one of the founders of White Glove. So that just also goes to show, like, the whole White Glove team is here. You call us, you talk to us. We are literally here to walk you through it. The last thing I want to say, because I advocate for many different marketing strategies for advisors, testimonial marketing being one of them, storytelling, visuals, all of those things, is every marketing function has its risks. So there's a study that Michael Kitces did back in 2021, and it's I think it's called something like how CFPs actually market their businesses. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole segment in there about different marketing activities, how well they work, what's the ROI, what's the client acquisition cost. And seminars had a very high ROI in certain areas, but also very high customer acquisition costs. And there was so much good data in that study. And basically what it said is the thing about doing events is they are a bigger investment, but they also have a bigger return if you partner with the right people. Advisors are not necessarily marketers. And doing an event, as you've learned today, has so many different factors involved for success. So that is why the best advisors, the top producing firms who are hosting seminars, and yes, there's a direct correlation there, they partner smartly, right? It's outsourcing. This is one of those things you absolutely should outsource. This is also why at White Glove, we are the only event marketing company that offers PBM, performance-based marketing. What that means is you are not going to pay for households who don't show up. If we don't fill that room for you, you are not paying. We are the only company doing that. If I were an advisor, that is where I would place my bets. Obviously, I work with White Glove, and so I advocate for them, but I do it because I truly believe this is such a good growth strategy. But please, if you're trying to do it on your own, just know the risk is way higher than partnering smartly. I'm going to end us there on that note, and we're going to open it up for Q&A. Actually, we've got one more poll for you. If you're still here with us, I'm going to hit launch. We're curious, now that you've sort of learned all the things that you've learned today, who in here is planning on hosting an event this year? Maybe you're thinking about it. Maybe you're not really sure. Let us know. Allison, thank you again for being here.
Wow, what a great session. I mean, I even learned a ton, and we prepped 3 times for this. I mean, it's always a pleasure presenting with you and doing an event with you. And like I said, over at AssetMap, we've been so excited to work more with White Glove, and just the fit is natural. So this has just been so fun. But what a great poll. I mean, you have all these tips and tricks now. What are people going to say? Are they into it?
81%. Woo! All right. That's awesome. We're here to help you if you need the help. My DMs are always open to you. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find Allison on LinkedIn. Just type our names into LinkedIn, connect with us. And, we, again, are both here as a resource for you. For those of you not sure, if you want to join other webinars that we do, please do learn more about this stuff before you jump in. I'm a big advocate for that. I don't think you should jump into any marketing strategy blindly, which is why we try to educate a lot here. Let's open for Q&A. And, there's some good key takeaways. I'll let you guys review these in the document that we'll send. We'll give you all of our slides. But we've got a couple of calls to action here too. So if you want to learn more about AssetMap, go to assetmap.com/white-glove, 10% off. That's awesome.
Great. Yeah.
And then with White Glove, if you want to learn more and you use Asset Map, go to whiteglove.com/Diana. That's my page. If you fill out the form there, I'll get you connected with the right people. We can talk about your strategy, your goals for growth, and you'll get $5 off each attending household. We usually order about 20 households. That's what we plan for these events. So you can kind of think about how that multiplies for you. A couple questions that I'm going to ask you while I keep the screen up for anybody who is interested in learning more. Braulio asks, how does Asset Map compare to other solutions like Money Guide Pro, for instance?
Oh, my favorite question. So I'll try to keep this short and sweet, and we can go deeper into this, in another date. But, Asset Map is certainly has planning functionality, but we really feel like it's able to be used with all of your clients. What we hear a lot, and Money Guide, eMoney, all the great tech tools out there that we love, it can get so deep that not all clients need it, and not all advisors have time to use it with every client. So the ability to kind of get started with a bit of more of an X-ray than, a full-blown surgery is kind of how I think about with Asset Map.
Perfect. And then Dean says, I may have missed this, but where about do you get the link to send out to prospects and clients?
When you get signed up for Asset Map, it is part of your platform. It's super simple. And of course, we have one of the best training teams out there. Clearly unbiased, but we will make sure that you would be ready to rock and roll day of once you get signed up if you needed to get your discovery link up and running.
Yep. Awesome. And it looks like a lot of you also put chats directly to the hosts and panelists here. So we've got our teams on with us that are answering some of these questions. I just want to highlight something that Laura mentioned here because somebody asked, with all your insight and expertise, which model would you move forward with? Live or a webinar? And Laura says, most of the time I recommend seminars for the fastest conversion, but it depends on your growth goals. Webinars are so much more scalable. We can record them and run them even when you aren't there. So you can reach a lot more people without spending more time. This is super true. This is the beauty of digital. And we like to say, balance the traditional and the digital marketing methods. With tools like AI and other MarTech tools in the space, they help you reach more people, but that doesn't mean it should ever replace getting in person. That is just the traditional way that advisors have grown. Handshakes, smiles, one-on-one. I think it is so important. Ken said, just a comment. Hope it's okay to write this, but you two ladies are so beautiful and super smart. Lots of actionable items. Thank you, Ken. We appreciate that.
Hey, I'll take a compliment any day of the week. And, we're super passionate about what we do. I can speak for Diana too. And we love doing this. So I think I hope it comes through and I'm glad it does. Thank you for saying that.
Absolutely. Dean mentioned that he's already an Asset Map subscriber. So where would he find his code or link, Allison?
Same place, or just contact me here. I don't think I can. If someone wants to throw my email in the chat, it's, I don't have the capability. It's
I can do it.
Allison.susco@asset-map.com.
Perfect.
You can always email me. You can always hit us up on the chat at assetmap.com, but I'm always happy to chat with any of you. So please feel free to, like Diana said, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up on LinkedIn, or feel free to send me a direct email. I'd be happy to chat with you.
Yep, I'm adding both of our emails in the chat. Another thing I'm going to add, folks, is sometimes it's easier when you can directly click these links just to get to where you want to go. So I'll also include those in the chat. And what does AM user mean in current slide? That means Asset Map user. So if you're using Asset Map, you want to incorporate your QR code in your presentation. Please talk to us at White Glove, and we'd be happy to give you $5 off each attending household. And again, we usually predict around 20 households will attend your event. That's our goal. And
that's a wonderful size audience too, because then it's not
perfect
too many that you can't network around. So I absolutely love that amount. And I know we're over, but I love that. That's a great amount.
I tend to go a few minutes over on these things. I think there's just so much great content and people have a lot of questions, and hey, we still have half our audience here. So clearly all of you are still engaged and interested. And hey, if you have any last minute questions, go ahead and drop them in. Otherwise, I think we're going to wrap this up in the next 60 seconds. And just looking at some of the chat here.
Really good questions today too. Thank you everyone for staying engaged with us. And it's more fun when we have an audience who wants to be here and is asking amazing questions. So thank you.
I know, it's wonderful. And big thank you to Laura Galloway from White Glove, who's on this webinar right now, just fired up in the chat. We had a lot of questions come through just the direct chat to hosts and panelists. totally okay, folks. And she's been crushing it. So thank you so much, Laura. Laura is such an expert in this space. She actually runs a podcast on this everything that we talked about: event marketing, visuals, all of the above. It's called the Fast Podcast. Laura, if I mess that up, please tell me. But there's some really good episodes on there. You have to.
Also, one of my favorite ones I've ever done. So you could go check out me and Laura's podcast. We had a lot of fun, but it's one of the better ones out there. I fully recommend Laura's podcast. So
Yay! Wonderful. Okay. Well, I think with that, folks, we're going to end the session. Yes, the Fast Podcast. That is right. Thank you all for all the time. Have a wonderful week. We're here to help. Connect with us online. We can't wait to talk with you more, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Bye, folks. Thanks, Diana.
Bye. Thank you.